We have a huge emphasis on customer service, but interestingly enough, it's always the second thing in our code of values. Service to customers, very, very important, but the most top priority of our whole organisation is service to franchisees, because what we found is this: if you want to give good service to customers, you've got to have great people, and therefore our focus is first and foremost making sure that we look after our people, that we can attract and keep the best people. Now, the first thing we've got to do with that, obviously, we've got to be selective of our franchisees. The interesting thing is, some people think that if you want to grow a franchise system, you actually take on anybody who comes forward. We found completely the opposite. If you're selective, if you choose the best people and say to the others, no, look, I'm sorry, I don't think you're right for this business, you'll grow faster. You have better people, you have better customer service, more work, less negativity. It's more attractive to newcomers coming in. Everybody wants to be part of an elite group. So we're very careful on selection so that we have quality people who let nobody else down. We also have induction training. We didn't used to, we now have it. We actually, not only do we do 3 days worth of induction training before we start, but we actually get feedback from our franchisees after they've been out in the field. Every now and then we'll ring up and ask them how their training was and how the experience was. What would they have liked to have learned more? So we learn to change the course to help our franchisees to be successful. Obviously, we run ongoing meetings, except in distant rural areas. A franchisor should hold about 8 meetings a year, where franchisees can get together. They can learn from speakers, but they can also talk amongst themselves. And we found from experience that if you look at the statistics, franchisors who don't have regular meetings tend to have less happy franchisees. But usually about once every 6 weeks is enough, so that's what we do. Our system of work allocation actually helps customers, but it also helps franchisees. Because what we're doing is asking our franchisees exactly what work they want and where. So, for example, if you're a mowing guy and you've got a ride-on, you can actually say, yes, look, I'll take ordinary mowing jobs in this area here, but ride-on jobs I'll take out there. We have one of our blokes in Melbourne, for example, who does 2-story gutters. Now, it's a specialised job. It requires certain kinds of equipment and skills. He's very good at it. He makes very, very good money out of it. He'll do that throughout the whole of Melbourne, but gardening and stuff he only does very locally. So he doesn't mind travelling 20 minutes to do a job if it's going to make him $250 for an hour's work. So people can specialise in the kind of work that they like. So what we're trying to do is to give every franchisee their exact preferred work with the least travelling possible, but they make that decision, not us. They get right of first refusal to their territory. For work outside that, they decide exactly what services and what suburbs they want. And they can change that any time. So unlike a system where you're independent and you get work when you don't need it and you don't get work when you need it, as far as possible, we try and give people exactly what they want, where they want. And the system also means that as they get more and more customers and get busier, which always happens, then they can work closer and closer to home. The idea being if they can actually work within their territory, which is just a few thousand households. We have a buying group. We work on deals for mobile phones, for example. Typically our mobile phone costs are at least, we've got a deal where they save at least 40% off a normal phone deal. We have deals on insurance. We get fleet buyers discounts for cars. There's a whole lot of things where we can save our franchisees money. But the single most important thing we do for our franchisees is provide a mentoring relationship with the franchisor. Now, a franchisor in gyms is a very special kind of role. Franchisor is somebody, usually a successful franchisee themselves, who know what it's like, have been out in the field, have made good money. They understand how to run a successful business. They're also people who've got good standards of customer service, and they're also people, this is harder to assess, we really look for this, somebody who likes helping other people. Somebody who's been a trainer is ideal. The kind of person who, just for their own goodness of heart, will spend a half an hour on the phone in the evening giving advice to a new guy. That's the person we like to take as a franchisor. Now, the franchisors have two very, very important responsibilities. They organise the advertising and they run the meetings and so forth. But the two most important things they've got to do is this. Firstly, they need to respond to franchisees' phone calls fast. Now, most of them will take a call on the spot, if not ring back straight away. The absolute maximum allowed is 24 hours. And we expect them not only to respond fast to the franchisee, but as far as possible to try and do whatever it needs to help them out. That's absolutely crucial. And we found, statistically speaking, because we survey our franchisees regularly, that franchisors who do that tend to have very unhappy franchisees. Very small minority, and we've really got to deal with those and train those guys and say, come on, you're not responding fast enough, you're not responding effectively enough, your franchisees are unhappy, we've got to get this right, absolutely crucial. And the second thing that a franchisor does, and strangely enough, this is even more crucial, a franchisor should ring the franchisee regularly. Even if the franchisee's been ringing them, they pick up the phone and they call them or they go to see them. Now, if you'd have asked me a few years back whether this was important, I'd say, well, why? If the franchisee rings you, that's enough. But we've actually found from our surveys that franchisors who do this, ideally once a week, but certainly at least once a month, tend to have very, very happy franchisees, successful franchisees, and they also tend to be growing their business because happy franchisees grow businesses. That's the key. So the mentoring, the personal one-to-one. And the good thing about a mentor is this, it actually deals with an individual's problems. So there might be 20 different reasons why a franchisee isn't succeeding as they should. They might not be charging enough. They might be not responding fast enough to phone calls. They mightn't be upselling to extras. They mightn't be presenting themselves properly. They mightn't be quoting in the correct way. They might not be estimating their time. They might not have technical knowledge. There's so many different reasons. Having a personal mentor means the franchisor can ask those questions and can find out what's going on and help that franchisee to improve. Whether the franchisee takes the advice is up to them, but it's up to us to provide it. And we know that effective franchisors who do this tend to have very successful and effective franchisees. We also find our franchisees work. That's very, very important, and obviously on the whole we're quite good at that. As I said, we've got tens of thousands of unserviced jobs, so we must be okay. But strangely enough, when people come to us, it's the thing they focus on. But what I would always emphasise to prospective franchisees, if you just want work, if that's all you want is jobs to get going, you can buy a business from the newspaper. And then you don't have to pay ongoing fees. The reason you're in a franchise, yeah, sure, we'll get you busy for the most part. It's not that difficult with a name like ours. But the main reason for being in a franchise and paying ongoing fees is that you want ongoing support. Because what we like our franchisees to do is to set themselves a goal of constant improvement. No matter what level of business anybody is at, they can always lift it 10%. That means 10% more money for the same time, or if they're happy with the income, the same income with 10% less time. And what's crazy about that is you can do it again. Once you've raised it 10%, you work on the next 10% and the next 10%. And we know that's a fact because we have franchisees who make 2-3 times the money that others do, simply by learning how to run their business more effectively.